In the front.
What, in your judgment, is the best way for us to act now?
Well, let's see. This is an all-day conference. I think in great part you're doing exactly what you should be doing. I think we've got to educate ourselves. Everything I've talked about is available up on those websites and other information that you can get. I think you've got to equip yourself. You don't have to be a constitutional lawyer to understand the information and the history we've talked about. I think we have to organize within our communities initially. No, let me go back a step. We have to start with ourselves. We have to start with ourselves to say that and to ask, what am I doing? What am I doing to feed this engine of repression and oppression? And what can I do to make the time and carve out the effort to address it? I've told a lot of audiences, first about 3 years ago, of the birth of my first grandchild, Lexi, and this last December, the birth of my second grandchild, Charlie. And I've been doing this work before, but with greater intensity for Lexi and Charlie. For every Lexi and Charlie. For your Lexis and Charlies. Think about who is a Lexi and a Charlie to you in your family and in your circle. And the Lexis and Charlies around the world who are the victims of this sweeping exercise of power and violation of human rights. You start with yourself, you move to your families. At that next family gathering, how many of you are confident that you could have brought your family member here to this conference today and had sitting next to you a supporter in this struggle? Many of you may be blessed with such families. Some are not. Then you've got to move to what a friend of ours, and I know members of interfaith communities, United for Justice and Peace, OCUUC, which has been such a center of my activities since 9/11. We have a wonderful Catholic priest, Father Chris Panet, who coined the phrase, resistance at the water cooler. The metaphorical water cooler where Monday some of you will return to work and people will be talking about their weekend and the movies they saw and the activities they participated in, and you will tell them where you were Saturday, what you did Saturday, what you learned Saturday, and what you're going to be doing. And you widen that circle, and you react to the good you see among elected officials, and you react against the bad you see among elected officials. And you write letters to the editor, and your letter may not get published, but I'm told that letters get published in rough proportion to the ones that are sent in on different sides of an issue. And if you can add to that stack of letters, that a letter from that stack, perhaps not yours, will get published. And you make those phone calls, and on the internet you respond to those action alerts from the ACLU and other organizations. And I've asked audiences to take the 1 hour, $1 pledge. Every day you spend at least 1 hour in this effort, and every day you spend at least $1 in this effort. $365. Look around you what that would raise for this community and other communities, and how you could multiply that. I think if we genuinely say it is us, I do matter, I can make a difference. I grew up and cut my political teeth on opposing the Vietnam War. We stopped a war. We could stop a war sooner than we stopped that war, with fewer casualties than that war. I think if we do all of that, we'll make a real difference. Okay, yes, sir.
You were speaking a minute ago about the Charlies and the Lexis, I think you said,
Yes.
of the world. I'm a native Nicaraguan, and 20 years ago, the Sandinista government took the Reagan administration to court, and we won a verdict against the United States, which up until today, the US government has ignored. They were ordered to pay $17 billion in damages due to the war. In an eventual, hopefully possible, new Ortega administration, what would you recommend the Nicaraguan government to do?
Hire a bunch of good American collection lawyers. I think that I know of that suit. I wasn't aware of the amount of the judgment. The courts do play a role in all this. I didn't talk a lot about that because the Supreme Court, the court where William Brennan and Thurgood Marshall was the last bastion for individual rights in the past, the last resort you knew you could get to. That's not that court anymore. And that court could very well do the bidding of this administration, given the recent appointments. But lower courts and other courts are making a difference. And the ACLU, and I should mention the Center for Constitutional Rights, extraordinary group of lawyers headed by Mike Ratner, who I went to law school with, doing the hard work of representing detainees in Guantanamo Bay. The ACLU has filed a lawsuit against Donald Rumsfeld. The Center for Constitutional Rights and the ACLU have filed lawsuits over the NSA spying scandal. So the courts do play a role in this, but I sometimes, and didn't today, emphasize that because I think it's much broader than leaving it to lawyers and judges. It's about us and it's about the work we do. Yes? You want the microphone? 1 second.
It is difficult to talk to friends and family and get them to turn their face and look in a different direction. I just have one suggestion. A couple nights ago, I went and saw a movie called Sir, No Sir.
Yes.
And it's an excellent film about soldiers who were in Vietnam, who opposed the war. And they took a lot of risks in doing so. And it's a movie. And it's a good movie. And it's playing around, and you could take your friends and family to see that movie, and maybe they will take a different perspective, a different look at what's going on today.
Thank you. Yes, there's a phenomenon today of the use of the media, the positive use of the media. Robert Greenwald now has produced a whole series of documentaries. Unconstitutional, Uncovered, the Walmart documentary. Films like this are having a powerful influence. You can eventually rent these films, have a screening at your home, or a series, a film series of these films. People resonate, they react to those things. And I should say that when I chronicle the dark chapters of the history of this country, it is not to ignore the courageous chapters. When people like Daniel Ellsberg and veterans against the war and courageous people, many in their own lives who are in this room and elsewhere, have stood up and have done that work. I will personally share with you, because it's the result of the scholarship I did on this, that I wrote a new book called Freedom of Assembly, tracing the very history in this country, from the anti-slavery movement and the women's movement and the labor movement and the anti-war movement and more recent movements where people have organized, exercised their freedom of assembly and done that work. And we should honor and learn from that history.